Michael.
Yes, Wesam.
Are you a Cubs fan?
Yes.
I couldn't tell. Michael is wearing a jersey for number 44, Frank Tisanano, right?
Anthony Rizzo.
Anthony Rizzo. He got a haircut, though, right? I don't know. Ray Gray. Shout out to Ray Gray. She said he got a haircut. I think, was it Ray Gray who told me? Dude, what is with my memory? What is with my memory, sir? Oh, my gosh. Our guest today is Mr. Tom Verica. I shouldn't say Mr. He hates it when I say Mr. Tom Verica, but I'm going to say Mr. Tom Verica because he can't do anything about it. It's my show. Tom Verica is executive producer and director on my show For the People. He's like an older brother to me. He really is. Amazing guy, pretty cool. He gives me a hard time a lot, and I let him get away with it because he's cool. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Tom Verica.
Got your water? Good? Oh, yeah.
Tom Verica. TV Tom Verica. Dude, you know how I told you already, I was so upset that I didn't use that nickname while we were filming.
TV Tom Verica?
TV Tom Verica.
There have been others.
There have been others? Okay, I wasn't the original.
I don't hear anything in here. Just so
Oh, let's turn up the headphones. The joys of technical stuff.
Oh, there we go. You're in now.
I'm in? All right. Yeah, I thought I was the original. I got so excited that one day walking down the stairs, it was a few weeks ago.
It hit you, my initials.
Yeah, TV Tom Verica. Yeah. I was way too excited about it.
I think the first couple of jobs that I got, I think it was my agent in New York, who I think he saw a branding aspect, and he said, "Hey, it's TV's Tom Verica." So he would literally, every time I walk in the office, greet me with that greeting.
You've been in the business for a while. Before we started this morning, I was like, let me just refresh myself on some of your credits, and I was
long time, yes.
Yeah, but it's been a great run. Seriously, like
Is it over? Is this it? Am I done? It's all over. You've got a good run. This is it. Last one. This show will bury you.
No, man.
I've been very fortunate.
Seriously, like, I'm just impressed the fact that you're producing and directing, and you've kind of gone into that field. And I was looking at, like, okay, when did he really, like, jump into the directing thing? And this was even before you joined the Shondaland group, right? You were directing episodes of other shows, correct?
Correct.
And then what, for me, because that always interests me about people, whenever they take a slight turn in their life, because that's always scary, you know, like, why jump in? I know, like, acting, directing, they're kind of in the same family of, you know, arts, but that's still a pretty huge endeavor to go against.
It is, and I in kind of analyzing how it happened, I don't think that I consciously knew at the moment that this is what I want to do. I think, looking back in hindsight now, having been interested in acting initially, as a child, I think I was such a lover of film and images and storytelling that was kind of in me, and it kind of resurfaced in a way that once opportunity found itself. So getting into acting, which is something I was very attracted to, basically to avoid business school, and it seemed like a much more interesting career path, much to my parents' dismay. But I moved to New York, and that kind of set me off. So I was acting, I've been acting for 30 years now, and there came an opportunity. I started to think about directing when I was working on sets and seeing a lot of directors work. And I think I've always had, it was kind of an awakening of the left side of my brain, right side of the brain, whichever one is more organizational. And I knew I wasn't a writer. I tried writing a couple things, and I have too much respect for the people who do it well to recognize that that is not my strength. And but visual storytelling was something I've always loved film and television. So watching a lot of directors that I had worked with, trying to understand the process, I really kind of started to focus on that, and then I finally had the opportunity, being on a television show that I was acting on, that I wanted to direct, to put myself out there, and they basically said, well, you have to make your own short.
Yeah.
You can't just sort of get the keys of the kingdom if you're not serious about it. So that kind of ignited that passion. And a buddy of mine was a writer, and I'd taken a short story of his, and I filmed it, and then it was one of those things immediately as I was doing it. I said this feels right. This feels like a fit. I have that kind of desire and passion to see the overall and try to shape story and see where I want to put the camera. And and that kind of launched my directing.
That takes an incredible amount of self-awareness. Did you always have that? Because I don't know if it comes with age, but now I've hit 30.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow, you're over the hill.
Oh, it's
I'm trying to remember what 30 was like. I remember 30.
No, but like I'm realizing just my self-awareness is getting more sensitive, and I'm trusting my instincts more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, I think you hit it on the head. I don't think, in my 20s, I don't think I was aware or conscious. I was like, oh, this is fun. And, you don't have a lot of those grown-up responsibilities and families and other things that you're kind of tethered to. Mm-hmm. You just kind of go, and it is instinctual. And I think as I get older, you start to identify, and you're much more in tune and sensitive, and being able to articulate why certain things happened along the way in your career, the decisions that you make, and if you're hopefully tuned in or smart enough or a student to understand the analyzing those things and how to change that course or shape its course,
right,
or guide it in a way, that's something that's very challenging in this industry, because we're gypsies, and you live from job to job, and you don't always have control over that. But at least you can make your own effort,
right,
and your own path and your own journey into sort of shaping what it is that you feel is right for you.
Did you have mentors growing up, or was it books, or was it just completely self-driven?
It was no, I definitely had mentors. It was books. Once acting, I had such a respect for the craft. I started in Philadelphia, where I was born and raised, and doing dinner theater, doing musical theater.
Oh.
Yes. But I knew singing and dancing, while I liked it, it was not my strength.
Yeah.
And I really, acting was what I initially wanted to get into, so I moved to New York and studied with one of the top teachers to this day in the industry, and wanted to be with him because I knew he was, if you were serious about it, he was one. So he really shaped, from an acting standpoint, at a very early age, a work ethic and a respect for the business and the industry that I kind of embodied, and I'm very thankful that that journey led me to that point in my time, because that's kind of was the foundation of everything that I base on this industry.
Yeah, I have I did a couple dinner theaters when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. I was a jester. And it was just like a Shakespeare type of dinner theater, so they did Shakespeare, but like there would be like in the halftime. Oh my gosh!
Intermission.
Oh my
it's
god!
Sports. It's the weekend. It's okay. You're allowed to.
My acting teacher in college is gonna kill me for saying that.
I make that mistake often, especially if you're watching the Super Bowl. So at halftime, intermission. I know we got to reset these props.
I was this jester, but I was a bad magician who it looked like I was going to mess up the magic trick, but I ended up making it work somehow. So that was
that's your gift.
Yeah. So that was fun to do. I found and I don't know, I've been lucky about this, and this has always been an instinctual thing, so I can't take a lot of credit for it, but I've always liked to learn from a bunch of different teachers or styles, and then kind of pick and choose what I want to use for certain things. Yeah. And it was something I had learned from martial arts from Bruce Lee, who said the highest art is no art, the highest form is no form. Basically saying stay fluid, stay open to react to whatever. And that he got that from Musashi. I don't know if you're familiar with him, from the Book of Five Rings, who talks about be everywhere and nowhere.
That's excellent advice, and I think I think if you look at the history of anybody who masters their craft, whatever it is, they extract from that. I believe there's theories and approaches that speak to one's sort of inner voice, and I felt early on that I was being forced to either do method acting or repetition and the Meisner technique. So those are the two that were presented to me.
Yeah.
But I too kind of listened to both of those theories. I read books on both of them. I experimented on both of them, and ultimately I kind of felt the same thing. I said, no, there's aspects of the method that I think are very valid and I can use in my toolbox. And it was really kind of it's amassing what I made a conscious decision of amassing my toolbox. What's my toolbox? And if I need to get to this emotion and it isn't just happening organically, I need to find a way if I can get there.
Yeah.
So I may do something. I may take aspects of the method technique, and that is, I think, informed me in my directing as to how to work with different actors. It's a very similar approach. Is that I need to know what kind of actor I'm working with. Is it someone that needs to be guided through the step-by-step of what's happening for this character and help them out in getting to that point? Or do I leave them alone and just give them one or two little adjustments to set them off? Is this someone who likes method and really needs that environment, that has to feel that this is the actual event that's happening now? Or is it somebody who's tremendously technical, doesn't need all that stuff, but can create the world of a green screen and just create that world around them and technically be adept to that? So it's really understanding those aspects, and like you say, being fluid and being open to that moment. Because if you're trying to drive home or win in a certain technique, you're naturally putting up those blinders and blocks that keeps you from being spontaneous.
Oh, absolutely. And I see it, again, paralleling it to martial arts and fighting. I see it in MMA sometimes during certain fights. Certain fighters go against each other, and you see a fighter who's like really adept at like groundwork or takedowns, and then he meets somebody who has a great defense against that, and he's like, oh, I don't have any other tools.
I don't have to answer for that, right?
Yeah, and he just gets completely demolished.
Pummeled.
Yeah.
No, and you have to be able to adjust. And like I said, to have those, it's whatever makes you excel at what it is that you do. But you have to be able to adapt if you're given, if you know it as an actor. If someone is very much reacting and they're getting something from someone, they need that. But there's those people who you look at, there's just nothing going on, and they're saying their lines, and as an actor will be like, oh my gosh, I'm on my own here because this person's not, I could suddenly go like that, and they wouldn't change at all. They'd still stay with what they prepared.
All right, well, what about this then? Because we have a good number of people who are actors who listen to this. When you come across a casting director who, let's say, they're not actors, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that happens, like, I'm going to say 50% of the time for me, and that's just not their job, and they're there just to give the read, and it's all up to me at that point. How did you used to handle that?
It's a skill, and it's very challenging because I remember many times where you're opposite the camera and the casting person's right off there and they just have their head buried in the script and you have no one to look at in their eyes. And I am definitely one who likes that connection and somebody who's at least present. But that doesn't happen all the time. In that situation, I mean, it is a different part of your craft that you have to tap into. So that the homework that you've done on that scene going in there, you have to understand emotionally what those beats are. You have to technically understand, okay, the person who's watching this tape, they're not seeing that I'm looking at someone who's completely checked out, who doesn't give a shit, or this is their 100th time that they've read this. I've got to keep this fresh. This is my audition. This is my time. How do I maximize that? So there is a little bit of that visualization, as if you do have someone who you respect or regard, that makes the scene feel real, that you do have to have that rehearsed and that facade of being with somebody who has engaged that. So it requires more work in that situation, but you have to trust your own your own instrument, that comes through, and you sometimes have to work very hard at that. And there's been times, though, that I've busted an audition, not putting it on them, but saying, I'm sorry, I got thrown, knowing that, oh my God, I wasn't prepared for this.
Oh, man.
And then just a resetting of myself to say, okay, here's in my mind, let's try this again, but I know that I'm flying solo here.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons, man. I really hope we get a second season, because working on For the People, everybody is just so good.
It is a phenomenal, and I mean that through and through. Everybody is distinct in their own way, and they're all phenomenal. They bring, I've watched each of these episodes probably 10 times or even more, whether we're doing, all variations of post-production. And just cracking up at something that I've heard, literally 15 times the same joke, but the way you guys deliver it, we just had a mix yesterday of the finale, which hasn't aired yet. I don't know when this is.
Yeah.
And a moment that you have that just constantly, all of us bust up as you and Kate Littlejohn are in your office, and you guys are so used to going at odds, and then you find yourself agreeing with one another. But it's a brilliant scene, and the craftsmanship of each of these actors on very different levels, but the commitment that you have to your characters are brilliant. And I really do hope we get a second season to play out what is I see as endless stories and opportunities for you guys.
Oh, yeah. So this episode airs. Yeah, people have seen it. Oh, yeah, Ben's episode, the Seth episode.
The Seth episode, yes.
Yeah.
It was
God.
Reggae who coined that, right?
Yeah, it was. Dude, I mean, everybody's really good. Just pointing out Ben right now. I mean, that episode was just what a showcase of a character arc.
Yeah.
And well written, by the way. And I mean, you just watch him change, and it's the subtle thing. I don't know, man. I just love watching my castmates, and I've worked on other shows before where I've been like, yeah, you guys can watch it or whatever. Check out the show. I mean, it's not like I'm
no, but this
super
one
excited.
You have to say you have to watch this.
Oh, I'm like, no, really watch it, guys. Yeah. It's like really engaging stories and like everything about it. And so I just
it's
feel
smart. It's and like I said, the craftsmanship of the writing and the marriage of writing and talent with you guys are really just a perfect blend. And the casting process was exhaustive for certain roles. Some of them were kind of slam dunks right away, but it really was getting that unique actor for that voice of what Paul had in his head, and it has paid off. And you all are just so specific and brilliant in each of those forms. So. And Ben, I mean, the setup, the conceit, the way Paul has taken the show, which is fantastic, is that, Seth is kind of a little Midwest, a little clueless at times, and his comedy is fantastic. But to take this episode where he really gets to shine, and you in the second episode, same thing. You see something at its facade, and you assume, he's the kind of the goofball, whatever. But then you see the layers of you having to sort of take on this case, very powerful, very emotional stuff, to suddenly take a character like that and not knowing, because a lot of those initial auditions, we're trying to hit those sort of the broad stroke of who this character is, and this person seems to get the essence of it, but you have no idea if giving, Wesam this monologue about this skinhead, if what that's going to be like. And yes, he's a professional actor, but you have no idea the nuance that you guys each bring to that thing, and that's why I'm saying you just explode it and you open it wide open.
Well, thanks, Tom. And again, for us, I know I've talked to some of the other cast members about this. You guys have made it so easy for us. Seriously, like in terms of the production value, the directing, the writing. You've done Shakespeare, right? Or
only in class. I've never done a production.
Okay,
yeah.
But like 90% of the work is written out for you on the paper. Mm-hmm. You literally you're thinking on the word. That's it. And as soon as you like have those words in your bones, you're just there.
That's a marriage of writing, of cadence, of rhythms that not only is in the writing, but that you all bring. And I think, seeing those first scenes of you and of Jay and Kate Littlejohn going head to head, and you have that idea. You have that idea in your head on paper, but you have no idea what that chemistry is like. And, and you've seen it happen. Sometimes you try to force a chemistry, and certain shows will keep trying to force that chemistry that's not there.
Yeah.
And then other times you discover other chemistries. I mean, perfect example, I think Reggae's and Susanna's chemistry was not something that was anticipated. And now that's sort of taken root, and, one little moment that Paul writes that sort of tests the waters on that, and you as a viewer are suddenly like, oh shit, look what's going on here. What would that look like? And on paper it'd be like, nah, that's kind of crazy when you're starting out in these characters. We had no idea that. But that's the benefit of having a company of talent where you can sort of allow those things to breathe and see those things and then say, let's lean into that.
It goes back to being flexible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Being open to
Look at that, full circle.
I know,
Look
right?
at that.
And we're done, ladies and gentlemen. That's something that's always interested me about our business, and I've only been on the other end of it once or twice, maybe once specifically I can remember, of casting. Like, the things I learned about on the casting end were, first of all, the amount of actors that came in, obviously it wasn't for like a series regular on a big TV show, but that came in unprepared were astounding to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys still face that.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching, I'm like, oh, this guy, we were so excited we saw his reel.
Yep.
We saw his look. We're like, this is the guy. Please come in.
And you want, and as a director, you want everyone to be really good. And I heard that before, but it isn't until I was on the other side that I saw and understand that. And it did fascinate me how many people were not prepared or not on it, and they really kind of talked themselves out of it. And I also, one thing I remember as an actor, I would be so hard on I was hard on myself. And, whenever I walked out of an audition and replaying the scene as we all do 20 times, oh shit, that moment, I didn't play that, and I meant to start this, and it got me off the, we overanalyze everything. But how hard I was on myself as an actor, and realizing, seeing this side, I'm like, oh, that really has no bearing, because I fucked up that word. Did not cost me the role. Yeah. I was either right or I wasn't, and it really permitted me to let go of that perfection or that over-analyzing myself, and it freed me up as an actor. So when I went into rooms from that point on, I was able to empower, saying, this is my audition, this is my time. And the advice I give to young actors now is that is your audition. It's natural to want to walk in and say, oh my gosh, what do they want? And I want to hit what it is they're looking for and be who they want me. But really the essence and what everyone is looking for is an authenticity. And that is your own authenticity. So
oh yes,
it was I view whenever I audition as, this is my moment, this to show you who I am. So rather than try to conform to something that's not me or what you think, sorry,
it's
so getting wild in here. It's the alcohol. This thing is really vodka. Instead of trying to conform to what it is I think they want, this is my interpretation, this is my audition, and this is how I want to play this part. And the more confident I was, and the more I owned that, the less I was worried about, oh my God, am I going to get this job? Oh my God, did they like me? I walked out of saying, I felt like I did the best version of that, and as long as I committed to doing my best work, and I felt good, I really trained myself to not, yes, I care about getting the role, but to not sort of put so much on, did I please them, did I do, and it took it off them and really made it about me. If I felt good, that was good enough for that day. That made my day much better.
Yes, that's something I have really been exploring, my own voice, what makes Wesam unique in the room, because nobody else can do Wesam. I've heard that before, by the way, but it's never really resonated in me until the last couple of years, where I've really been like, no, what am I going to bring special to this? Because I know I've got something. And again, trusting your instincts. It's like, no, there's something in here that I can really bring something special. Not in a cocky way, but like in a really confident way.
And without sounding hokey about, everybody has their own thing about them. But you have to understand and tap into what are your strengths and make it your strength. And if there's something that is just not in your wheelhouse, that's in the script, make it a version of it that makes it your wheelhouse and put it in your wheelhouse. And
Yeah.
if they don't want that brand for this role, then that's not something in your control. Do the best that you can do, but you got to walk away ultimately like, I'm connected to who I am and what I want, and this is how I want to play this.
Do you think just letting go of control is just practice and just takes time?
Absolutely. I think everybody has their own versions of there's the opposite ends of the spectrum is someone who is trying to control everything and micromanage every moment, every beat, everything. And when you do that, you're not being present in that audition and not being able to flow organically. And sometimes as a director, I'll ask someone, as I did with you, I ask someone to try the scene a little bit differently. It's not the way I want to go with it, but I want to see how you're going to react to it. So if I can see that this actor, in which you did, was able to sort of say, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Let me try that. Which, as a director, that's what I love. I want experimentation, and I want to see if somebody has the ability that if I change something up or take away the the convention of the way the scene we all think the scene should go, and really want to try a different journey on that. That's exciting, and I want an artist who's going to be willing to go that route. And then the other one is the one who's completely unprepared, who just wings it the whole way, and then like, oh no, you really haven't done your, as a director, acting and directing, and this is where those things kind of merge for me, and I've learned from master directors who I've studied, is understanding everything about the scene, knowing what I want beat-wise, blocking it, staging it how I envision it. But when you get in and you have that rehearsal, and we are now right here and now at this particular time and date, I've got to be open to how that might change or morph. And this actor has an impulse to go stand at this point, and I hadn't thought about that, but that still works with what I want. Oh. And being able to sort of flow with that, as long as it's sort of what the intention is behind the scene and where you want to get to, and it is a true collaboration at that point that we are all taking that journey together. But you have to have that knowledge of what the scene's about, what you need, and what has to be achieved from beginning to end of the scene.
I got a great example of that. And it was our walk and talk scene for the first episode outside the Mother Court. In New York
Foley
City.
Square, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first, when we were shooting the pilot, I was like, hey, what if I turn around and kind of, kind of like, hey, stop the flow of the walking. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yeah, sure, let's try it. And then we did it, and you're like, actually, I want it to flow more. It feels like it's just breaking up the conversation. I was like, oh, okay. Not fully understanding what you meant, just trusting you, being like, okay, cool. And then seeing it film, like, oh, that's what he meant. Yeah.
And I knew I wanted that to walk, but I wanted to, this is where I say, hey, there might be something that I hadn't thought about. Let me try this actor's impulse and what that is. And there are times where, and almost never, but where I'm wrong. No, I'm kidding. No, it's just literally being that objective eye.
Yeah.
I'm outside of it, and you're in it, but you have an impulse, and I want to sort of be able to play and try that impulse. And we tried it, but it does sort of stop.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, I mean, my overall approach to this pilot, particularly the opening, this is the opening of the series, and these young attorneys are going in, they're going in to be sworn in, and they're their first cases. I needed that momentum and that drive, and that, they're in the big city, they're heading towards that courthouse, that sort of anthem, steps and everything. You guys are kind of being drawn, and the excitement of wanting, oh my God, first day on the job, I'm going to that. And at that stop there, then it treats the words too precious in that moment, where as an actor saying, no, but I know at this moment I want it to, and I know you want to make that, but that moment can happen and have much more impact if you're kind of on the move, and these things are happening on different levels.
Absolutely, 100%. And trust, and when we're actors, I feel like no, it's about the scene, it's about just this moment, and it might be truthful just in that little bubble, but there's a whole other story going on.
Yeah.
Immediately, it's a good thing to keep your ego in check. I feel like as an actor, especially when it's like trusting somebody else's input, especially the director's input, and that's something where I feel like I've gotten a lot better at, and especially just trusting my leaders, if you will, in the program, especially with this. In the past, it's been like, well, I'm having trouble understanding what you really want, or it doesn't really make sense to me. And then looking back at the episode, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have been explained that in the moment. But of course, it's kind of hard when you're acting in the scenes to talk about the whole episode.
The larger.
Yeah, and I'm like, but no, in the larger perspective of things, okay, that makes sense.
I call it the policeman number 4 syndrome. Policeman number 4, if I was hired when I was beginning and I was policeman number 4 and I had one line that comes in and says, hey, so-and-so's, we have so-and-so in the other room. Now, as an actor, I'm like, this is my moment. It's my big fucking moment. Policeman number 4, here I go. And I'd come in and I'd think, I couldn't sleep the night before. How many times am I going to say this line? It could be this. I could accentuate this word. I could say, and you put so much on that because this is your break. This is you got a chance to do something. And I was so paralyzed, and I would close off everything because I was like, oh my God, this is my one line. And everything, if a director sort of gave me direction, I'm like, no, but this is I'm giving this information about it. And I look back and laugh at it now, and it's the advice I give to young actors now is understand your role in the larger thing. You're not always going to be, the lead. You're not always going to be the lead in an episode if you're the smaller part. Understand that. So if you're policeman number 4, you're hired not to sort of suddenly take everyone out of the scene and say, wow, look at this actor here delivering this line. You want somebody who's believable, comes in, gets information, and gets the hell out. So that's what I'm looking for when people who have 1 or 2 lines is to not sort of upstage and try to shoot for their reel because they're going to put this one line in their reel. They're going to show how good that they can be. And if I see someone, that scares me because it's someone who's not understanding that larger picture. Yeah. So like you're saying, as a director now, when I am able to talk to actors about saying, look, you can't play, this can't be that moment that's connective all the time. That's coming up in Act 4. This is Act 1. This is throw this away more. It's setting up what's going there. Yeah. But not everything can be stopped to say pay attention to this moment here because then you're gonna blow it and you're gonna lose them. And if you invest too early on in that, you're asking people to sort of stop and realize how precious those precious moments, if it's done well, if it's told well, has a sort of an ebb and flow, an arc. It's a pace and a slowing down. And in order to get those moments to slow down or those moments that really hit, that gives you insight into a character's soul, you have to have, that can't be done in every scene. There has to be sort of this routine of life that you're on for this journey, and you really have to carve and shape those storytelling aspects. So I try to do that with actors who may be bumping on a particular thing that they're trying to get to. But as you said, the danger in what you're talking about is, particularly in television, there's you don't know which director you're getting, and there are directors who there's kind of, you run the gamut of some who are checked out and they're just sort of saying, oh, they said all the words, yeah, we're moving. So then you feel like, oh shit, I am flying blind, and you don't trust them. And if your instinct is not to trust them because you don't feel that they're really keyed into what it is that's happening in your moment, or they're checked out, then you have every right to sort of say, shit, I got to protect myself and rely on other actors, or that you don't blindly just say, well, I'll trust whatever they do. So I would caution you just to be careful not to just sort of blindly, if it's someone you kind of respect and feels like, oh, they have thought all about this, then you probably can let go and really kind of lean into whether he or she really what their plan is and what the overall is. Yeah, that's been an awesome experience, by the way, on the show. Like the wide variety of directors we've had come on, and really watching their directing styles. Different styles. Yeah, completely different styles. Literally every single director who's come on, it's been different from the other one. Yeah. Which I find amazing, because then it's like, but I'm watching the first 4 episodes and it still feels like, to the general audience, which, by the way, I have a footnote about that, to the general viewer, it's the same show, right? Yeah. But then, like, I'm seeing the nuances of the directing and the shot choices, or what scenes they kept, what scenes they decided to cut short. It's very... The emotional elements that they leaned into, the ones they pulled back on. Right. Yeah, that's what... You're right. And we didn't have quite a palette of directors. But I think audiences are much smarter now than they were 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, in general. And I feel like what you could have gotten away with storytelling 10 years ago, you can't get away with now, because, like, general public and general audience members will be like, oh, no, we've seen this story before 100 times, or this feels... Do you think it's investment in in story and character, or the sort of the curtain being pulled back a little bit more, in the ability to sort of view a lot of those behind the scenes things? What's your theory, or what's your?
I think it's the amount of TV that people can watch, streaming TV in particular, because first of all, there's no commercial breaks.
Yeah, you're right.
You can watch the whole season in one go, so you remember details a lot more clearly.
Because you only watched it 3 hours ago, whereas it might have been 10 months between those two episodes.
Absolutely. I feel I'm more
Yeah, you're
emotionally
right.
connected when I binge watch something than if I'm watching, well, it depends on the show, but usually if it's week to week. So I think a combination of everything of that is happening. Just in general, too, I think people are becoming more enlightened and just smarter with the amount of information, and sometimes that information isn't 100% true. So I feel like the way people absorb information is a lot quicker than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right. I think people are very savvy, and I think they're smarter. They crave smarter television. There are those, you look back and, 20, 30 years ago, you really only had few choices, and they tried to hit as center as possible. Now you can sort of really lean into someone's sexual preference, or really kind of specific things that affect maybe a small sect of America.
Right.
That there's something there for you. So it kind of opens up, and I think people, if given the opportunity, will go.
One of my favorite challenges about working on the show is pace for this one, because I naturally lean as an actor to marinate in the words.
Yeah. And most actors do. Yeah.
So that's been an amazing experience, an amazing exercise opportunity for me as an actor to work on pace and still live truly in the moment. Because then when I'm watching the episodes, I'm like, of course, that's why they want to take up that space, especially when we slow down. That's where it's like really compelling, because again, like the policeman number 4, you can't have every person's every line just be like this.
So precious.
Yeah.
And I would love to show, and I'll show you an opportunity, but there are times where I'll take an actor in and I'll show them, and it's tough because you're in it and when you're connected to the words and what you prepared, and if it's slower and you're able to take that beat in, and all that is fantastic and real, but and I've learned this with Scandal is when we really started doing it, because that pace is on a whole other level. But in order to sort of allow those moments to hit, you'd be surprised how emotional you think you're not being in those scenes that I ask you to go quicker or pick up the pace and trust it, because you've done the work. I know what that moment means to you, but I don't need to sit with that moment for to lay that in there. If you roll through that, as a viewer, I'm able to witness. I'm like, oh shit, that hit me a lot, as opposed to the telegraphing.
Yes.
Oh, here's the moment where I'm really connected, and if I'll show you takes back to back of one that's, this scene that takes 2.5 minutes, and then when I have it paced up, if it's 1:53. And that's just technically looking at that. So you have a scene that's 40 seconds quicker. I'll take you the same scene.
Okay.
2 actors doing the same scene. That's 40 seconds in difference of a 2.5-page scene. And there will be situations, examples, where you'll watch it and you're like, oh shit, it sings much more, because the audience you're not telegraphing it. The audience is not getting ahead of it. I find oftentimes in television, because people are so very sophisticated, is that if they're getting ahead of you, you've lost it. If you're smart enough in your dialogue and you have the actors moving through it, and the audience is just a beat behind it, and they're not seeing what is coming. But if the actors are making moments out of all that time, they see it coming, and then they're like, in the mind, I think there's that nanosecond where they're like, predictable things, they're going to do this. Oh, there they go, they just did it. And then that's when slowly the viewer starts to sort of check out and say, this is so predictable. But if they're ahead of it and people are like, wait, did they... And I think it's good at that. If they don't catch every little thing 100%, that they're slightly behind it, it's making them think, oh yeah, I want to know it. Let me watch that again. Rewind that. Oh shit! Or you watch the whole episode, you go back and watch that scene, and now you understand the DNA of that scene and what that's leading to at the end of the episode, and it makes it that much. It makes viewing that first scene even more so. Saying, oh, and you see little kernels in there that weren't laid out there so in an obvious way. So there's a design to all that.
My first time experiencing that feeling was in watching Fight Club.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, there you go. Perfect example. Watching the DNA of that.
Oh,
yeah.
I was blown away. I was what? No, we're watching it right now. And then you're like noticing all the little things. You're like, oh,
Yeah. All the little clues that have layers to it that each time you view it, you get more and more out of it. And there's nothing better than watching something a fifth time and being like, fuck, like The Godfather. And, you see certain things, you're like, oh, shit, that's this moment that I've always just sort of enjoyed and loved now has much more meaning, because it's been layered. And
rewatching The Godfather the last time, which was a while ago, I think it was sometime last year, you realize the weight that's on his shoulders constantly, on his mind. And just like he's not doing much, like just from a very surface perspective, he's not doing so much. But then you look in his eyes, you're like, oh my God, the whole freaking weight of the world is on his shoulder.
Him, yeah.
You ever watch The Game with Michael Douglas?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not going to give away the ending. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Seriously, what?
Yeah.
I remember one day I was just, I think it was on Netflix. Maybe it was not. I don't remember what streaming service I was watching it on. It was late at night. I was by myself. I'm like, I'm going to watch a 90s movie just to get nostalgia. I haven't seen one. I just like the feel of 90s films for some reason. I don't know why.
It has its own look. Yep.
Yeah, like Die Hard 2.
Transition into there.
Right? But, oh my gosh, blown away. And I was like, what is going on? It's that kind of story where you don't know. You
don't
just
see it coming, yeah.
You don't at all. And very clever. It's actually in my top 10, probably most.
Oh, wow.
most
Oh,
favorite films.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think also, I don't know if you agree with me, but the environment you watch a film in is very important.
Absolutely. I mean, if I can go to the theater all the time, I would, because that's where I fell in love with it. And it's kind of well known that if you're watching on your phone or if you're drowsing, going to bed, and you're not going to be interested in it because you want to go to sleep. If you're in your bed, I mean, if you put yourself in that environment and you want to get in bed and it's 8 o'clock and you're ready to go and you want to watch and do all this, it's fantastic. But it's really what, as a viewer, what are you setting yourself up to in viewing this thing? Is it something you're ready to give your full attention, or are you going to check text while you're watching it? Yeah. And that's going to dictate your involvement and B, enjoyment out of the process of what you're investing in.
Have you seen Prisoners?
Yes, with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. And
what's Davis and
what's his name? Jake Gyllenhaal. He's the detective in it. Prisoners. Their daughters get kidnapped.
Yes, that's the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah, powerful. Yeah.
Amazing film. I'll never watch it again. It gave me anxiety, and I don't even have kids.
And you don't even have kids, yeah. And that's the one thing I thought because I have 2 young kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the thought of talk about putting you in a situation to imagine what it would be like. That's
there's an alternate ending to it.
No, I didn't. Is there really?
Yeah. And it's a really interesting directorial choice. I forgot what it is specifically, but I remember my friend worked on post-production for it. And he was like, hey, check out this was the other ending they had. And I was like, oh.
And they test audiences. They probably tested it and felt that this was the...
Yeah. Huh. They ended it, if I'm not mistaken, yes, sooner than it... Than what was
later. Than what they had, you mean?
Yes. Because if you remember at the end of it, it's like...
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, I don't want to give it too much away. If you haven't seen it, it's been out for years. Don't.
I'm gonna watch it again though, because that's I remember being moved by it, but I don't remember specifically.
Oh my gosh, I love when films do that. And recently I've been learning more about editing and trying to look at things with more of a directorial eye.
Oh, good.
And playing around with like editing techniques or like YouTubing videos. Which, by the way, I love how on YouTube you can go watch anything and learn anything on it technical. Yeah. Literally anything you want. Somebody's already got like 6-10 videos on it, and you're like, okay, cool.
Being the amateur Apple tech for my father, that's what I try to teach him to do. Dad, just go on YouTube. They'll have something for it, so I don't have to spend hours trying to figure out how do I move a song into my playlist on iTunes.
I am now officially tech support under my mom and dad's phone.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
My mom was blown away by AirDrop.
Just can't compute how that can happen.
She was so excited.
If I'm in your proximity, it could just go to you.
Yeah. It was quite the experience this morning. And I begged them to get just iPhone 10s because they had like the iPhone 8s, and it was it was very cute. They forgot the passwords for their Apple IDs, and they got locked out of their accounts. And long story short, they just made new Apple IDs to save everybody the trouble. And so they got the new iPhone 10s, and the iPhone 10 doesn't have the button on the front.
Mm-hmm.
So they love screenshotting things. And so they didn't know how to do it on the 10. And then my mom accidentally found out while she was FaceTiming with me, and just watching her eyes like just light
Discover
up.
that moment.
Yeah, like, oh, I can still do this? Yes, you absolutely can. Isn't that great? So,
hysterical.
yeah, by the way, my parents say hi.
Love your parents. Please tell them I said hello.
I will.
If they're watching. Hello.
They are. They loved your parents as well,
Yeah.
meeting them. So what is this? Okay, Brett Davern, who obviously he runs the morning show, the Brett Davern Show.
It says right there, Brett Davern Show.
Yeah, not as popular as the Wesam's World,
No.
believe it or not.
In the mind of Wesam.
So I'm so mean to Brett about that. He said something about a machine gun story where you're hanging out of a fan. That's what he told me to remind you of.
How did he knew this story?
Okay, I'm literally pulling up the text right now. So for those of you listening, Brett actually worked with Tom here on a pilot. You played his dad.
Oh, on
It didn't go.
Yeah,
It was for Lifetime. Amazing
one of
Mrs.
many. Oh, the Amazing Mrs. Novak.
That's right.
Yes.
And then you also
That's
directed him
right.
in an episode of ABC called The Deep End.
Yes.
Ironically, about young lawyers.
About young lawyers in Texas. We were in Houston. Yes. Yes. This my Die Hard 2 story, which some people know of, and I'm very happy to reveal. So I had my first Hollywood film. I got my first job, and it's a big honking feature with Bruce Willis, and Die Hard 2 was such a huge hit, and or Die Hard, the first one. So I got a chance to. I was cast with Vondi Curtis Hall.
Oh my gosh.
And John Leguizamo, and a couple of us were all kind of young actors.
Yeah.
And we were shooting in Denver. We were chasing snow because the premise it took place at Washington Dulles Airport, and there was a huge snowstorm. And so we shot in an hour outside of Denver, trying to find snow. There wasn't snow, so we shot all the interiors first while they were hoping for the weather to change in the next week or two to get some snow. And we had this church that we shot at, and we were getting ready to do, there was 5 of us who were inside this church who were part of this, military terrorists. And I was one of the bad guys, and I remember they said, we're going to do a shot of each of you guys shooting out the window for this action sequence.
Oh, cool.
And I'm in my trailer, my honey wagon, and it's like 2 a.m, and filming was going slow, as it always does, and I've dozed off and I've fallen asleep, and all of a sudden a bang on my door from the AD saying, "We're going to do your shot now. We have to get it because we got to, we got 15 minutes and we got to break for the day." So I'm like, "Oh shit!" And you're kind of, my mind's like trying to get, "Oh wait, where am I?" And okay, I'm running, I'm going to set. And the prop guy hands me this MP4K, this semi-automatic machine gun.
Yeah.
And it's got a cut-off nozzle, and there's a handle at the end of that. And I remember him sticking that in my hand. Says, "All right, we got to go because they're telling me, but put this on." He says, "It's going to have a kick, and don't put your finger in front of the nozzle because it could blow it off, even though it's blanks." And I'm like, "Holy shit!" And in my mind, I'm still like, I just woke up, and everyone's saying, "We got to get the shot, we got to get the shot." So Rennie Harlan, the director, comes up. He says, "All right, Tom." He says, "So you're gonna, with the butt of the gun, you're gonna break this glass window, and you're gonna shoot at the guys who are the police who are storming the church from the outside, and you're shooting out the window." And I'm like, "Okay, great." And I'm like, "This is my fucking close-up, man." And I'm like, "Holy shit!" And I'm like, Rennie Harlan, tell me what to do. So I get all psyched. They call action and bust the window and shoot. And I didn't shoot my finger off, which I was happy. And there was a kick in it, which initially I got control of it.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good about it. And they say, cut. And I hear this laughing from Video Village. I'm like, "Oh, shit, what the hell happened? Did they not turn on the cameras?"
Yeah.
So they came back and says, "All right, we got to go again." And Rennie came up and says, Tom, this time when you're shooting, let the gun do it. Don't go." and they were all watching, and I'm shooting this real machine gun, and I'm going, and at the expense of everyone's laughter. And of course, I was, as kids, we are trained when you have fake guns to make the noise. But when you actually have something that can do it yourself, you don't have to fabricate that sound. So they all had to laugh at my expense.
Dude, that is one of the best stories I've ever heard. Did you know what's
I
his name?
don't have footage. I wish I got footage of that. That would have been pretty funny.
Ewan McGregor, right? The actor in the Star Wars and the episode like 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah.
They had to tell him, hey, you don't have to make the sound.
Oh yeah,
so
it's
he
the
was
same
doing
thing.
it too. Yeah.
And it's his kids are conditioned to create that world of shooting guns.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I can just see my lips going.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, that just makes me really happy.
And I was much more self-conscious. I'm sure I look like it's in the film. It's in the final cut of me shooting through there.
Yeah.
And I think I'm working like hell. What I see is tension in my face of just don't make the thing with your lips. Just try to be cool. Shooting the gun. Don't show the lips.
That's something I hope to get to experience. Is like a real, like really hardcore action film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was fun. It was fun.
I'd love to do something like martial arts wise, like a Jackie Chan type of film where, oh my gosh.
You should. It's a world you know.
I would love to do it. And like their shooting schedule, a lot of Chinese films are really intense shooting schedules. Like they'll bust out a film in a month and a half. I remember for Jet Li's Fearless. Have you seen Fearless?
I have not seen it, no.
They did it in something ridiculous, 2 months.
And that was a huge film. I do remember reading about it and seeing it. It's a huge film.
With the choreography alone.
Yeah.
You're like, what? 2 months?
Yeah, they don't waste any time.
No, sometimes one fight scene like would take 3 days to film. And they're doing take after take after take after take. And if you've ever shadow boxed or done any of that stuff, after an hour, you're like, oh, man, I'm really sore.
Yeah, your muscles are fried, right?
Yeah, 2 months? It's incredible. I hope someday to get to experience it. And that's, I don't know, that's why I like to kind of just stay in shape and work out just in case if that ever pops up. I'm like,
you're ready to go.
I'm somewhat ready.
You gotta be in fighting shape because you know more than anybody. You suddenly can get a call, where you're in a slow period, then all of a sudden an audition turns around and you're shooting. We're shooting this on Monday. And you're like, I gotta take off my shirt. What?
Yeah.
You're doing a sex scene Monday.
Do you watch UFC at all?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Some really exciting things happened the last 2 days. And
I did read about the. I saw this Irish mob running through a stadium trying to search for something to destroy.
Oh my god! At first,
pretty wild. Yeah.
At first, I was like, "Oh, that's a great." What's it called? Publicity stunt or like way to hype up not this fight but the next one.
And what is it designed for? That I mean, he called 30 of his buddies from Ireland to fly in. Is that
what happened? Was he hadn't defended his title in over 500 days? So they're like, "Well, we're
taking the belt away?
We're taking the belt away."
Right.
And there was a new championship fight. It was going to be between this guy Khabib and Holloway. Khabib, by the way, is this fighter from the mountains of Kazakhstan, I believe. I forget where. Can we double check on that, Michael, please? And then he is an incredible fighter, like 25-0, just a monster. And Connor comes up to the bus full of the fighters ready to go to this press thing. It's all the fighters for the fight tonight.
For all the undercard and everything.
Everything. Like the 2 major fights, too. And he's got there with his crew. He's like banging on the windows.
They're picking up stuff and throwing it.
He threw something and it broke one of the bus windows. And at first I didn't know the extent of it because I saw it kind of when it happened as the information was coming out. And I was like, oh, that's actually freaking genius for him to do. And I'm sure Dana White's in on it to kind of hype up the next one. Whoever gets the belt in this one, he'll fight for it. But then you're like, oh, shit, like one of the fighters actually got his face cut. He's not allowed to fight. He lost a paycheck. Connor is actually arrested. And his buddy.
Yeah.
He's put on, and he had to pay like $50,000 bail.
$50,000 bail, yeah.
And another fighter couldn't fight because of it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, but isn't it? Aren't we in a? Didn't kind of Mike Tyson kind of throw open the doors of the? I mean, there's always been behavior, certainly in professional boxing, but now with all these other forms of martial arts and the popularity that they're gaining, doesn't it in some way breed that kind of behavior to act out? And I mean, this definitely crosses the line and goes into it. But here we are talking about it, and here's someone who doesn't watch. I don't watch it, but I knew about that news story, and it's now garnered enough attention where I'm like, I might want to see that. If those 2 guys are going to fight, I might want to see what that is. I mean, it's kind of brilliant if that was the tactic, but I think it's not. I think it's just, someone given that platform and that kind of attention around there, but at his core, he's a fighter, and he's in intimidation, psychological edge is what he's going to try to do, and that's certainly what he's attempting to do, I think.
Hey, that's actually a great point, and I totally forgot. At his core, he is a fighter.
Yeah.
And
you need to be to succeed on that level to be able. I think
you do. I totally agree.
Not in a pure brutish way, but there's a technical aspect that to excel, you do have to have the art form and the mastery of that thing, and the ability to sort of understand that. But at its core, there is an element of that has to have that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Khabib, where is he from, Michael?
Dagestan.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Khabib was he's super religious, by the way. Mm-hmm. This guy does the Ramadan fasting too, even when he's training for a fight,
mm-hmm.
which is absolutely insane. But he was like, no, we have to fix this. You came and attacked me when I didn't have my crew or no one. I couldn't leave the bus. No, next fight we fix this. We fight. He's one of those
principled
fighters
who's methodical.
Two opposite ends of the spectrum, these two guys. Seriously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to styles of
mm-hmm.
acting, if you will.
It's a training, it's a technique that and a respect for the art form or for the process. Yeah.
But if you watch him fight, the guy's it's just scary to watch him.
Oh, wow.
The last fight he did,
I'm
it was
curious now.
They were no joke. They were the last fight he had. I forget who it was against, but they were they showed the clip from The Revenant where Leonardo DiCaprio's being attacked by the bear,
mm-hmm.
and they're actual footage from Khabib's last fight, because he was throwing around the guy like he was nothing,
just a rag doll.
Yeah, his training partner is a heavyweight, Daniel Cormier, who is
Uh-huh.
one of the best fighters that ever lived.
Right.
Who's I don't know how many pounds heavier than him, but substantially heavier.
Oh,
That's
wow.
one of his.
Oh, I want to see this now. This is
man,
exciting.
I like one-on-one sports. I know you're a sports fan.
Mm-hmm.
Football
Yep.
and baseball, right?
Football, baseball. Pretty much any sport. If there's because I find tremendous drama in it. So
yeah,
I like a lot of sports.
I love more one-on-one
mm-hmm.
things. For some reason,
well,
more
it's
than
the psychology about the individual that everything rests upon that the physical and the mental talent of that individual is really, and that is it's a tremendous thing to watch and enjoy that.
Yeah, because there's so many variables. I feel especially with fighting,
mm-hmm.
And a lot of fighters, they train, and then the one variable they forget to account for is the live aspect of it. With the crowd, the noises.
And some people feed that and it elevates their craft, and others probably it becomes a hindrance to them because
So kind of taking this back to acting, the auditioning process for me,
mm-hmm.
I was okay, well this is, for me it was okay, that's kind of a part where I'm just not comfortable with at all. Side note, when I tested for the first time for the people, you guys had one guy come in ahead of me,
mm-hmm.
and stupid insecure actor mind games. I'm oh, he went in first, he's their first choice. Why did I immediately go
not
there?
Not the case at all. And I think we probably were all right, let's just get him out of the way so we but who we want is, that's funny, but you're right, we do this, we're our own worst critics, we really are.
And I don't know if were you ever like this? Let's say you're meeting the director or the executive producer. Right now, I'm obviously more comfortable, and plus, you guys at Shondaland make everything more personable and professional, and it's really comfortable to be around you guys. But as a young actor, you meet and he's an executive producer, or he's the director of this. You all of a sudden get
you build up.
up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Still, well, it's because they had the ability to put you in a position to hire you. If depending upon what their position is or how well known they are, that kind of platform that you will instantly be put on is more terrifying. We're in some respects, a lot of us are afraid of success, or of we say we want to do this thing, but to actually do it, are we going to be comfortable with that? And being judged by someone who you regard as in a very sort of higher position is kind of terrifying and vulnerable. And I think but as actors by nature we're vulnerable. So again, that's why I try to not only for myself, but talk to people is flipping that and making it say, no, this is my time. I have this 5-8 minutes in this room. This is I want to walk out of here feeling that I achieved what I wanted instead of, oh my God, I hope they like me. I hope they like me.
That's where I build my confidence, is where I train. So every Sunday morning I still do my acting class with my buddy, because that builds me confidence, knowing that I'm still working on my craft. And I feel that if I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't in a class, my confidence would be shot.
Yeah. Well, and that's absolutely, whatever it takes to get that confidence, whatever, to get in that zone of feeling I'm prepared, I've done my work, I feel good about it, and I'm not going to let, a director who seems to be an asshole and not looking at me, or just sort of, barely saying 2 words, or walking into a room that's cold, and we all know this. You walk in rooms where there's 10 people just standing there and basically looking at you like, okay, so fucking entertain me. Or you have someone who say, hey, well, you talk a little bit, get to know. I mean, I like to sort of ease the room, make someone feel comfortable, talk a little bit about who they are, where they come from, and then get into the process. But it also enables me as a director when I'm doing this, is to see what type of person I'm dealing with. Is this someone who's comfortable with who they are? Is this someone who's just paralyzed by, oh my God? And some people prefer just to do their work right away because they're kind of in it, and I can respect that, and then we'll talk afterwards. But really being fluid in that thing. But it's whatever one needs to get to that sense of center for themselves. And that's really, that's, as a director, that's what's appealing to watch, is somebody who's, I want to hire somebody who's confident in themselves, that they're, and not, that doesn't mean being an asshole or being a dick, or, someone who's just going to behave in a certain way that is disregard, but it's someone who's just very comfortable and secure and confident in the decisions that they've made. It's going to make a lot of us much easier when in a working environment.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the technical challenges I've faced with shooting a show. Just the small things, like you never really work on that kind of stuff in acting classes. Like, oh yeah, make sure you're putting the cup in this spot every single time. Yeah. And I know that sounds so simple to people listening. Yeah. But with everything that's going on, and you're trying to be present in this moment.
You're trying to be present in that moment.
And you keep going like this.
Coming, you put it on the wrong line. You put it on it's got to go on, plant. And you're like, really?
Well, you know what? Laziness. This is something that I feel a lot of...
The fuck are you telling me? I'm lazy? Is that what you label me? Laziness.
Okay, we've gotten to the reason why I brought you here, Tom.
You
lazy. Just produce, you just act, you just direct. Come on. No. A lot of brand new actors, especially when I was doing my previous podcast, I've learned there's this laziness issue, this floating aspect to their lives. Like, I'll do that next week or whatever. I found for myself a good motivation, a good fuel for my fire, my family. Like, I want to take care of them. I know you have a family and everything like that. So that's a great motivation for you, I would assume.
Absolutely.
But let's say somebody who's brand new to LA or some big city, or into a field where they're just starting out of. How do you combat laziness?
Yeah, I think this town is even tougher. In New York, I was fortunate enough, I feel, for myself at the time, that New York provided me that push, that edge to stay on it. There's a vitality in theater and pursuing that. I had a theater company which didn't make any money, but we put up plays. But I was always kind of honing and sharpening that craft. Laziness is a reality that and procrastination that this business breeds, because by sheer numbers and percentages of who's working at any given time and how many are not. So your drive, you can only maximize your success or your chances for success by how much time you're devoting and putting into it and making motions to that. So for myself, I wouldn't allow that. That would fuel me if I wasn't working. If I had to what could I be doing? I may not have been I may not have had the organizational skills of having a lot of people have is spreadsheets about what meetings do I have and what does this lead to. And I wasn't. Some people are great at doing that, and sometimes I think that can be a crutch because they're driven by that. But there's other people who know innately that I may not have had an audition in a month, But what am I doing to sharpen my craft? If it's an acting class, if it's going to the guilds, or the Screen Actors Guild or DGA, and utilizing the workshops that they offer there to network, to meet people, to be able to do scene work in front of people who may come to watch that. And not necessarily is this something that's directly related to me getting hired, but it's more for myself that I say, you know what, I'm scared to death of doing Shakespeare. I'm going to throw myself into a Shakespeare class, and even though I'm so self-conscious about the language of that, I need to sort of head that on, and by putting that out there, putting that energy out there, and taking control of that, I believe unlocks and frees you up for other things to sort of come your way, because there is a commitment and there is a desire to that. But like I said, we live in a land of sunshine, and people just go to the beach and says, well, I'll do that next week. And once that kind of takes root, it's very tough to shake out of that. And whether it's a screenwriter or a director or an actor who people who call themselves that, but are not really making efforts to doing that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that I meet that inside 5 minutes of talking with them, I know how much they're either really pursuing it and how driven they are, or that they've kind of accepted, or they're just it's easier to float in kind of this no man's land by calling yourself that, and you're able to keep your head above water, but you're not really driving through. So there's a complacency in that, and that's it's very difficult to ever get anything born out of that if you're not really actively pursuing your craft. And there's always something, whether it's, especially now with live streaming, and not only viewing certain films, but documentaries or things about your craft are at your fingertips to really kind of sharpen those skills.
Yeah, I have found there's a part of me which I'm always fighting against, and it's I don't know if it'll ever go away. Honestly, the just get by guy. Do you know what I mean? And I just as I'm getting older, I'm realizing how quickly time goes by. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been out in LA now for 8.5 years, and I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. That's like high school and college for me put together. Mm-hmm. And the amount of change that happened there, and I'm like, what about the next 8 years? What's kind of changed? Yeah, if I even live that long. I mean, you never know what happens too. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that ticking clock is getting louder and louder every year. And there's this great video online by Jocko Willink. And I think I've mentioned him to you before. He was the ex-Navy SEAL. He wrote that book.
The book, that's right.
Yeah. And he talks about like the ticking clock, and it just, it's every day it's ticking. And so, I don't know. For me, I just want to make sure like I don't know. This has become almost a therapy session.
No, but I think that ticking clock is what drives you. It's what it's what drives a lot of us. I mean, I've been very fortunate and very blessed. I've had a lot of success in my career, but I still have that. I mean, I'm 53, and I have that. Shit, I haven't done this, and I want to do this, and I have very specific those things that are still there that I have on a burner. That when there's a dip in time here, I'm just like, what can I do to sort of further that path along? And I think if I ever lose that, I know it's time to not do it anymore. But that pursuit and that drive and that desire to always kind of either grow or pursue is something that keeps me alive and driving.
That's good to hear. That it's okay to.
An old guy like me, at 53, still has it.
I think that's important to hear too, because I don't know. I think it's going away more than ever. But like growing up, I had that thing. It's like, oh, people retire when they're like 60 or whatever, and then it's like you chill. That's the most ridiculous.
You put it on autopilot and you just cruise.
Yeah, it's like,
look, one of my and I'll make this quick. I like that.
Sorry, you got to go.
No. Just a story.
Yeah.
And perfect example of exactly what we're talking about. I was fortunate enough to be cast in Flags of Our Fathers that Clint Eastwood directed. I wanted to do a Clint Eastwood film and shoot a gun in a Clint Eastwood film, which was like, once I got that, it was like, okay, that's it. Career made right there.
Right.
So if I do nothing else, I can say I did that. But we were shooting in Iceland on these beaches of Iceland, and when we were wiped out, we shot all day on these beaches, and just from the the wind coming off the ocean, we were spent. And I'll never forget this. And we got me and Ryan Philippine, a bunch of these actors in their 20s and 30s, we're getting in a van and we're all, at the end of the day, just fucking spent. And we're in the van and nobody's talking. We're just tired. We just want to get back to the hotel. And we're driving. It's been an all-day filming. And we're coming up to this remote, we're in a remote area. We're coming to this road and this helicopter comes and because they were filming from the helicopter are sort of storming the beaches. And Clint Eastwood steps out and filming had done for the day. Helicopter lands, and all of us must have been like, we're looking out the windows like, holy shit. 75, whatever years old he was at the time, steps off the helicopter and gets on this ATV vehicle, and he's going out to get more shots, and he's still working. And here we are. And this is a guy who totally, you talk about a guy who could totally put on autopilot. He's still driving because he cares about this film, and he's sitting there and he's still going out after the crew and everybody is wrapped. He's going to get another shot that he wants to get. He's got a cameraman with him. The two of them are getting on this thing, and they're going to get a shot that they're doing. And that kind of like, that stays with me. That whenever I feel like, are we we're gonna have a meal break soon. I'm a little hungry. We're 15 minutes over, on a soundstage. Yeah. That I can remind myself. I'm like, that image of him doing that and how committed he was. That kind of invigorates me.
That pumps me up so much.
Makes me miss me up. That's why I use that. I'll never forget that.
That's why,
man. It's such a simple thing that we just happen to be driving by at that moment and seeing that.
I'm telling you. Now I'm all excited and caffeinated. I got the second wind of caffeine. When
what the hell is that? By the way, I thought it was a plant.
If you're watching on YouTube, it's my Yerba Mate drink with my lemon Vera on top. Here, smell that. I think you've smelled it before, maybe. It's from my garden.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, nice. That's nice, yeah.
Yeah. Very lemony.
But is that actually part of your drink, or is that just what it gives you the feeling when you sip it, you smell it?
It's a little lemony flavor inside and everything.
Very cool.
Yeah, very hipster.
I got to get one of those.
You know what's the cool way to do it? You get a lemon and you carve it out. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like the lemon peel cup, and you just put the Yerba Mate in there and you're drinking out of a lemon thing.
You do the same thing, right?
I need to just live in like the mountains for
as well you should. It's a place of source of energy.
Right? I love it. No, but like for me, I was always so stoked driving in, and I loved it when my call time was like super early, like 5:30 a.m.
You are an early morning guy.
I am, and I
wait at 9 o'clock at night starting to fade. I'm like, oh fuck, we said. Oh, did we get his coverage yet? We got to get his coverage, and that's something I gave to directors is to do his coverage earlier in the day. If we schedule him up for his monologue at the end of the day, we're in trouble. I
really appreciate that because
that's my job as a producing director to try to educate our directors coming in on people's rhythms. And that's another level of.
See, I never knew that.
Well, these are things that I hope to, again, maximum chance for success is knowing the rhythms of the actors and what when someone's sharp. Do they like their coverage first, or do they need to hear it and they need to wrap themselves around a little bit more? I mean, these are all the little things that I do as a producer.
Absolutely. Well, now I got two things to say. The first one was I would come in like I feel like I could. Just wake up, kick the covers off of me, just ready to come in to work, walking onto the lot when it's still dark and you get that cool air. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is the fucking dream. Sorry, no, your kid's out there. But this is the dream, you know what I mean? This is what I've worked for so long. And I'm working on a project that's amazing with people I love to come to work with. And it was just like, I'm ready to work. I'm going to bring my A++ game because everybody else is bringing their A++ game. Yep. And just that energy and that feel. I mean, that's why to do that is, I feel so lucky, so blessed. Even if we only do get it one season. I hope we don't just get one season. I hope we get many more. But yes, I remember one instance when we were doing, there was one of our last nights when we shot on USC, and we had just got done with a dinner break.
Yes, I do remember. Yes.
And then I'm doing a scene with someone, and you're like, "Come on, Wesam, you got to pick up the pace, man." I'm like, I know, I don't know why. I'm literally flubbing up lines.
And that's the moment that I realized later is not because you were an early bird, and of course we didn't know each other, and that's what gave me. And I remember that it was the last scene with Kate, I guess.
No, I'm talking about this is recently.
Recently? I was talking about the pilot.
Oh, no. But yeah, I remember the pilot.
Because you fucked that one up, too.
I know.
I'm kidding.
That's all the time we have today. Gonna go cry for a little bit. No, I'm kidding.
Not true at all.
No, but like, man, I just was like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. How tired I get.
Well, and
like toward the end, but
the challenge is that because that location we can only get into after
8 p.m.?
5 or 8 p.m. So that's always where you're going to be working. So it's
I'm in bed. I'm in bed by 8, just like getting into the covers, ready to like.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Oh man, it's been quite the ride, and just funny. Dude, do you remember what you said to me during my testing?
Oh shit!
Second
time?
time?
What did I say?
Okay.
I might have fucked with you because you know me. I like to.
Yeah, you mess with me all the time, Tom.
Because in a good way. Take it in a good way. It's because I love you. That's why. That's the truth.
I come into the It was you guys called me in for a second time, and my managers were like, "Just redo your hair." I think they were like telling me you put too much gel in or something, and I was like,
"That was literally that's the things that you guys don't know." But like one studio where a network person said, "Oh, can they?" And I'm like, "Really? I mean, do you really think that we can't sort of adjust this person's hair or appearance or something?"
Yeah.
Do you think they're right for this part? Because we can adjust those things, but this is where everyone starts to freak out. No. We don't want to show this to the president unless the hair is exactly how that. I mean, this is one of these silly things. Yeah.
It's that's what it is.
And this is the business that we do. This is the business we chose.
Dude, that is the best advice you gave me. Did you know that? Like, yes, I feel like that's what you just said. You're like, hey, nobody forced you to do this. You chose to be in this business. And it's like, well, that's absolutely.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you said that to me, and I was like, "That's absolutely correct. No complaints, then. You can't complain. Hey, nobody forced you to do this."
That's true.
But yeah, I came in, and I was like, "Oh my god, I don't want to go through." Like in my back of my mind, I'm like, "I don't want to go through this again." But okay, here we go. Let's prep. As soon as I walked in, you're like, "Hey, you fucked the other one up so bad, we had to do it again." I was like, "Oh, awesome, great, cool." Sean Rhimes, Betsy Beers, Tom Verica, Paul Davies. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good night. No, and again, I would never, if I knew it would rattle somebody, I did, but usually, oftentimes, it's to diffuse any tension or because sometimes I'm in those rooms and I feel everyone around me and their silence sometimes you feel tension creeping in. And my objective is always strip that tension away. Let's tell a joke, get something out of the way so that I want you to be as comfortable as possible. Yeah. So by saying that, I felt that there's some people I wouldn't say that to because they're like, oh my God, what the fuck? But you are a very easygoing guy. You're very confident. But I wanted to take if there was any sort of questioning that we as actors do because like clearly they didn't like this. They didn't like. They may have said the hair, but really they don't like my acting. Maybe I'm not hitting it quite.
So insecure.
By saying that, exactly. No, but by saying that, it's just like it pulls that rug underneath. So it's like, all right, just fucking do what you do. And I think I said that to you.
Yeah.
You were perfect. We're now going to look at it with your hair maybe a little bit different, or it's just it's silly.
It's so, yeah.
And again, you're probably as actors I know if I'm being brought in, I'm like, fuck, I didn't kind of hit 100%. They're not getting something. What aren't they getting? What am I not giving them to convince them of this? And that's the natural thing that you do when you want to go back and do the same scene. But that's why I will really work to make someone at ease because so oftentimes it's something so minute and so trivial that's not really the essence of their abilities.
I've heard this in many other books, but like picking your battles especially is very important.
Yeah.
And on more of the producing and directing end, I could only imagine whenever it's a collaboration project, I mean, you really have to be flexible, it feels like.
Yeah.
And what I feel like Shondaland, just in general, it kind of breeds this very positive and very cohesive kind of work environment with everybody. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Even on...
You're like, no, I disagree completely.
No, it's not. I don't know where you're getting that. We're doing really good about sort of making you all believe that. No, it is. And there is just when we're in editing, Paul William Davies, the creator of our show, who I love and respect tremendously, we'll bounce stuff off each other. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's his decision, it's his show. But he'll see something, I'm like, I don't know if that song works, or I like this take, I think is better, here's why, and I'll offer that up, and he'll kick that around, or something that he hasn't caught that says, hey, let's look at this again, because I think the opening of this can be tweaked a little bit to get a little bit more what feet. So there is that sort of encouragement, particularly with him, because I work so closely with him, the respect with one another. And we don't agree all the times. Most of the time we do, which is why we have I think we have the same taste in a lot of stuff, but there's times where we may differ on what that is. But I think it's through that process that we feel we're going to look at it both ways, and then we will have traveled that road to get what we feel is the best product. Right. But even with Shonda, when I was on Scandal, and we were locking her show, and she has asked me to come down on occasion and just to sort of watch it through and see something that's sticking out. And if I hadn't seen it, something that she was really kind of in and working out and just wanted to hear my thoughts on a particular scene. Yes, they are very encouraging of that. And we understand that someone has to make that decision, and that that situation changes depending upon whatever it is. But we will all kick the tires and bounce and collaborate creatively on a lot of those situations that really kind of breed that. So.
That sounds so healthy and so cool that you guys have that kind of relationship and professional relationship. I feel it's so important to have like kind of a hierarchy, because I feel like whenever there's not a clear final decision person, we need the final decision person. Yeah. I feel like that's so critical. Yeah. Otherwise, you can go back and forth all day.
Yeah, no, and if it's clouded and then you're not sure, then there's this sort of built-in fight for power or position or who and elevate, and I think that clarity needs to be there. And again, it's not an insecurity. It's just understanding. Okay, and very plainly speaking, this decision will be yours ultimately. But here's what I think. This isn't working for me. I think this is kind of this is not landing, or it's. I don't think that person's kind of hitting it full stride there. I think this is where they hit.
Yeah. And
it's just it's opinion, but and then once someone makes that decision, it will have traveled those sort of possibilities.
Are you ever looking to create your own show, do your own?
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple projects that I might be taking out soon, just for not to write, but I pull in writers that I either have worked with or, but I have material that a couple pieces that I really believe in that I think would make great either shows or films.
Yeah, because I've been thinking to myself, kind of mulling around that idea, if I ever want to do this, what kind of story I want to tell, and why? Mm-hmm. Why do I think people should hear this or want to hear it? Mm-hmm. And for me, one of the things, and I think I mentioned this on air before, but whenever I do my prayers and stuff like that, I always pray that not only my work, I'm able to take care of my family financially, but also entertain people, the audience members, but also enlighten them in a positive way, which betters themselves and betters the people around them. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of trifecta would be the ultimate goal for any projects. So I always feel I'm always thinking what kind of stories I feel would really drive somebody to really influence somebody in a positive way and entertain them, or show them a side of life. Because I'm really attracted to the dark, the people's struggles, the inner demons. There's a saying sometimes you really don't want to meet your heroes in person, because you realize, they're facing some dark demons, or they're just like me. Actually, they're not like this person on a pedestal I put.
Yeah.
So I'm always I've been mulling around some story ideas. So I'm just curious.
Well, I think everybody has films or something that attracts them to certain pieces, and if thematically you're able to sort of look at that and say, wow, this is what speaks to me, this type of material.
Yeah.
Or going to another level, someone who's a producer or a writer saying, I really feel the need to sort of put this out there and put it in form, and this is a story that I would love to tell for whatever reason, and whether it's to be more positive or show light, or just something that just has to come out of you because you need to see a story and tell a story like this. Everybody has reasons for creating content, and wherever that comes from, whatever that voice is inside you, you then have to take that next step, was how do I want to bring this out, and in what form do I want to bring it out?
I think it's important too to always focus on not always focus, but to at the same time work on the technical aspects of what you want to do, because I think that's really crucial too.
Well, especially if you're one who constantly looks at things that I can do better than that, and you're a judgment of everyone else's work, then you're right. Then if you're going to walk the walk, what are you doing to think and to pursue? If you're saying you want to do this, what are you doing? It's kind of what we bring it full circle. The other thing too is what walk are you walking to get to that point? To hone that craft or hone that vision that you want.
100%. Absolutely. I don't like editing, especially like I used to have to edit projects like I wasn't like 100% passionate about like this past long time ago. But I realized like to be a director, if I want to direct someday, I got to know, I feel like you have to know at least a good amount about editing.
Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't...
And by doing it. I mean, and it's what I tell directors. There's a lot of directors who, if they have not come from, depending upon where they come from, if they haven't come from the acting world, their biggest fear is talking to actors. And I recommend to directors is to take an acting class. See what an actor goes through. Know what their process is. It'll make you A, empathetic to their journey, B, understanding, which will ultimately get you to a better product and trust into where it is that you want to take them. But editing is not something I love. Editing it's not something I wanted to pursue as a profession, but I really enjoyed the process of doing that, and it gave me tremendous more understanding of what an editor goes through, and it's informed and made me a better director by understanding what the footage that I'm providing an editor. If I can understand how that's being filtered to them and what they're getting, that's going to help inform me to make better decisions or do different coverage to get something more out of something that will enhance my performance.
Yes, cross disciplines, absolutely.
Yeah.
I found that in archery, certain things about archery, cross-discipline with acting, which I never thought in the world. You know what I mean?
And there is. They do cross. It's a very fine line, but they're similar approaches.
S2, right?
The
sound guy.
Yeah.
He's been so kind. We've only gone once, but we're trying to go again, hopefully next week. Surfing lessons.
Oh, yeah?
Because I am so uncomfortable. I've mentioned this like the last 4 episodes. People listening are like, we know you're getting surfing lessons. We say,
just friggin' do it already.
Right? No, because I'm so uncomfortable in the water. And so, but I like that.
Yeah.
I love being a white belt at things because I'm so bad at it. But I can't wait to start seeing progress in the next few years.
Well, getting up on that board. I mean, if that terrifies you but excites you, you should do it. You got to do it.
The water's, those waves, I'm chicken. I am so scared of those waves. You should see me. I have to hold. This is so. I know how to swim.
Yeah.
But I have to hold my nose because I hate the feeling of
salt water, especially salt water going up your nose.
It doesn't hurt, Estu.
Yeah.
I'm like, it hurts. He's like, you can open your eyes in the water. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Can you open your eyes in ocean water?
Oh, you can, yeah. And a lot of people say it's nature's cleanser. Salt water cleans it out. Yeah. That's.
Doesn't it sting though? Because it's salt.
It'll sting, sure. Yeah, it is salt. Yeah. But it's a.
Hey man, that does not sound pleasant.
Then don't do it until you're ready to do it.
You should start off with it stings, not its nation's cleanser.
You see the positive spin you put on that?
Tom, I know you probably have to go, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's, I've been on Wesam's world now. This is a big deal.
Huge deal. Hopefully, we're trying to get Paul on here. And Betsy as well, and some other people, and some of the other cast whenever they come back to the West Coast.
Good.
The better coast, right?
Yeah, the better.
I'm kidding.
I am honored to be here, and I thank you, and I feel very honored that you asked me to do this.
Oh man, seriously,
I love you,
like an older brother. Seriously,
true.
Yeah, and Michael, we're out. All right. What a great episode. What a great talk with Tom. Seriously. He is just full of wisdom. Almost too full of wisdom. No, I'm kidding. That's impossible. It was such a great show to have Tom on. And Michael, if you or Tia or Taylor or anybody on this team, my employees basically, make fun of me bringing Yerba Mate or mentioning surfing, I'm going to kill you guys. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, okay? I love my Yerba Mate. I love my surfing. Guys, thanks for listening. We had Tom Verica on. You can check him out at his Twitter, Instagram, all his stuff. You can check us out at Wesams_world for Twitter and Instagram. We're on YouTube on the Adobe page, so you can watch all these videos on there. Thanks for subscribing. Leave a review. That'll help us get more listeners, and that'll help make us have more episodes. Much appreciated for everything you guys do. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Tia. Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Sam Jenkins, for filling in today. He wore a blazer. Again. I like that. I like that he's continuously coming in sharp. Big thanks to Adobe Radio and Nice Guy Digital. Michael, I got to get my car washed, I think. Michael's nodding. He just wants to get out of here. We're never going to end this thing. I'm just kidding, Randy. Have a good one, guys. Later.